Hello and welcome to the first Wild Plains Medicine podcast for 2023. My name is Caroline.
My name is Brad.
For those of you who have not met us before and would like to know a little bit more about us, I am the channel or a channel for Wild Plains Medicine and for the Ancestral Medicine Women.
And Brad is a shaman and a facilitator of healing within Wild Plains.
Do you want to tell them who the Ancestral Medicine Women are?
Yeah, the Ancestral Medicine Women are a lineage of healers above my mother, so maternal side. They have aggregated together, if you like, in spirit. I mean, if you ask them who they are as a group or what's unique about the whole line is they have brought men and women to spirit since the beginning of time. And that's the ancestral lineage that informs the work that we do. It's a line of women.
We're very lucky to have one particular mother. We call them the mothers, the Ancestral Medicine Women. They're known as the mothers. We're very fortunate to have one particular mother, Mother Sharia, to guide us and to help us with our shamanic work. And Wild Plains Medicine is a collaboration between, yes, all of the mothers, but particularly Mother Sharia and Brad and I.
So who is Mother Sharia, Caroline?
Mother Sharia, and we have to say at this point her name is actually Sharia. However, being Australian, everybody finds it difficult, so she's often called Sharia, we call her Sharia, and she's come to terms with that. Mother Sharia is a really wonderful, wonderful woman who lived an awfully long time ago. She's obviously passed now, and as I channel her energy, she was a shaman herself, still a shaman, and an incredibly wise woman who is very insightful, very fierce in some ways, but a very supportive woman who has helped us and many, many people who have had the privilege to commune with her.
So the podcast for the year is really about, in the context of Naturistic Shamanic Tradition, is about the nature of you and understanding the nature of you, but also and primarily exploring yourself and exploring your origin in all the different meanings of that are unique to you. So why would you do that? Exploring your origin actually leads you to where you belong. It's, our society is very fragmented and we're very distracted with a lot of media and jobs and demands and lots of travel. And it's a way of coming back to who you really are at the core, understanding that and knowing your origin actually brings you to this point where you belong, this sovereign place where you feel at one with you and you feel at one with your environment and your environment feels at one with you. And ideally it's a point where it's uniquely meaningful and nourishing for you.
One of the reasons that we decided to follow this path of belonging and origin is that we've met a lot of people, and you may have experienced this yourself, not all the time, but maybe some of the time, that you don't really feel that you belong, maybe you don't feel you belong in your family. You know, some people that we've met feel completely alien to everybody in their family and they don't have any interests or any personality correlation with their family or with their community. And that impacts their entire experience of being a human and living their life. So the idea of the series of podcasts that we'll be doing this year is to explore that unique and personal experience of belonging. So for us, the experience of belonging is an intrinsic part of origin, of your own personal origin. We asked the mothers a question about if they could explain origin and belonging, and this is what they said to us. It's a very short version. There is a really long version, but this is the short version.
So here are the mothers.
So now, what do we mean by origin? Is origin where you come from? So your family group. Is it the country that you come from? Is it the culture that you come from? Is it the planet that you come from, if that is more in line with your belief? For us, yes, all of those things are complementary to origin, but origin for us is really the place of your own sovereignty. It is the place of your own choice. It is the place of where you feel and you understand that you truly belong, but in that belonging, you are an extension of that place, of that space, of that experience. It's not necessarily one of those things. It could be all of those things: place, space, experience, or it could be one or the other, depending on how it best fits your understanding and your feeling of belonging. So origin really effectively is a sense of belonging, a sense of understanding that belonging.
So Caroline, what is your experience for others here listening? What is your experience of your origin?
Okay, so I suppose like many people, my experience of my origin was from my family, where we came from, how we've lived our lives, how we have developed and grown, and how we are now in the world. So my origin, in my experience of origin was initially that. When, last year in spring, we visited Uluru, and I went to a dot painting workshop, which was fantastic. And in that, we could do anything we wanted. Anything that came to us, we could do. And something inside me just started speaking. And my dot painting, I have to tell you, was not artistically great. But what came out was actually quite a shock to me, but it really opened up this idea of origin and my belonging in, not just in my immediate world, but also the cosmic world. So I realized that my origin sort of began with, the point was Brad and I, and we were two stars, and then we had children, and then they were in this circle, then they were in a larger circle, and then they were going out into the world. But then, there was our ancestral lines coming in from the outer world, if you like, coming into us and informing us. But then we were creating from that our own story, our own sense of belonging. So whilst my origin is, of course, informed, and I understand it as having all of these external parts to it, I realized that my origin and my sense of belonging was not just in the family group and that creation of the family group, but it was in the creation of that. And at that point, I felt like this is my origin. This is where I belong, and this is what I have created. So for me, my origin and my sense of belonging is in the creation, are in my creations. So for me, it's a constantly evolving origin and belonging story. It's not just one thing. It's a constant story, a constantly moving story. Every creation that I participate in, that I am a part of, is for me a story of origin and belonging. And now that I know that about myself, I really feel at peace with the fact that I can belong anywhere. And my experience is throughout my life that it doesn't matter where I am, I feel like I belong. And I can then move and I feel like I belong there. But it's because of that creationary energy. And I understand that now, that is my origin and that is my sense of belonging. How about for you?
Fantastic. Can we share that dot painting in the link below?
You're welcome to. As I said, it's really not artistic. It has no artistic merit whatsoever, but it was a definitely enlightening experience for me. But yes, go ahead.
Yes, that dot painting it's quite experience.
Yeah.
And the contrast between my work and Caroline's work is
Well, our work and pretty much everybody else's work, to be honest, because we're not artistic. Creative, yes, but artistic, no. Anyway, what about for you? Because it was a different experience for you, wasn't it?
Yeah. So the dot painting was, but I think, for listeners, it's to hear the difference in their origin between the two of us is amazing. I felt for many years, decades, that I didn't belong anywhere. And then, I met the mothers, through, one of the many health crises you have as a developing shaman. And, I felt like I met my group. It's like the group I always wanted. I met in this group of women, and it's like, wow, it's like I arrived home, and then they started teaching us. And then as that developed, I realized actually I need to live out in the elements as much as I can, because the elements were my friends. They talk to me. The trees talk to me. I need to cook on wood, open fires. I can't tell you how good and how true that makes me feel. So that's a real quick summary of my origin and where I belong, and how new ideas create through me in those things, how those things talk to me and move me. When I'm stuck, I go closer to the elements. I go closer to fire. I go closer to the trees and the birds, and that's my origin. It's completely different than Caroline's experience of her origin. So what is your nature and where do you belong? One of the things common to many shamanic traditions is this idea of questing, where you go and learn about yourself and you learn about the deeper emotional aspects of yourself. So the idea of this podcast, the inspiration of this podcast really is about helping people do shamanic quests, but into the nature of themselves, understand and experience the nature of themselves in many different ways, into their origin. And the end result of that is coming to this knowing where you belong and how to place yourself well in the world. That might be meaningful to no one else. It's a unique experience.
So the quests that we want to do throughout the year are all designed to really bring you to a point of understanding and clarity about as much as possible about yourself and your place in the world, and how you got there, and why you stay there, and how you can move on or move around, and ultimately to create this picture or open up this picture of your particular and unique and personal origin story, and how that is how you belong. So, and where you belong. So you belong in your origin. So that's what we're trying to hopefully achieve this year. So, with the quests and with all of the things that we talk about, our interviews with people, our interviews with the mothers, with Mother Sharia, all of those things are really bringing people to an understanding of where they belong, how they belong there, and their own decision making within that belonging.
It's when you think about how much immigration has happened over the planet in the last 200 to 400 years, there is this displacement. And it's just occurred to me as we're talking here that, years ago you were born into a community or a clan, and that's pretty much where you stayed, and rarely would people travel, and they were unique, and if you did travel, it might be for war, or, a couple of times in your life you might go somewhere special, right? So that's just a reflection of how we've become displaced from who we are and what we belong, right? And there are many distractions. We can be forgiven. So, Caroline, what is the origin of Wild Plains medicine?
Wild Plains medicine, we embrace the Naturistic Shamanic Tradition. Now, the Naturistic Shamanic Tradition is something that Mother Sharia has educated us in and has developed really,
over a decade.
Yeah, with us and, through her own learnings and her own knowledge and her own experiences. So everything we do at Wild Plains Medicine is based around or informed from Naturistic Shamanic Tradition. So I actually think that Mother Sharia is the best person to explain this to us. So let's go to her.
Welcome. This is Mother Sharia, and we are going to just briefly discuss or inform you of what the Naturistic Shamanic Tradition is. The Naturistic Shamanic Tradition is perhaps a new tradition. However, it is informed absolutely by the most ancient of our existence. Our earth, animals, the elements, plants, the nature of things. And that really is what Naturistic Shamanic Tradition is about. It is about the nature of things. We will discuss that in a moment, but before we do that, we just want to, when we say this is new, it's a new shamanic tradition, but it's based on things that are ancient. When we say it is new, what we mean by that is that we are looking at the shamanic tradition for the modern and constantly evolving world, the world of the natural world, the world of humans, the world of your technology, all of the worlds that you can think of. This is the tradition that we have developed, if you like, that can move and adapt with a modern and constantly evolving world. It is not dependent on ritual and ceremony. It does not keep people caught in those things. It does not keep people in tight balls. This is what you have to do to get that. This is what you have to see to understand that. This is what you must be a part of if you want to get that. This is not what we believe is a shamanic tradition that is suitable for a modern and constantly evolving world. We see that our tradition is one of possibilities. It is one of movement, and it is a unique experience for everybody. Everybody is going to experience Naturistic Shamanic Tradition in their own way. Yes, there are things that we do. We do journeys, we have totem, we have spirit animal guides, we have nature retreats, we have runes, we have forest law cards, we have a whole range of tools, if you like, that we use in Naturistic Shamanic Tradition. But how they're used, when they're used, is a completely unique experience all the time for whoever is requiring assistance. In saying all of that, we do have 5, if you like, guiding principles. And they are connecting, communing, kindness, adapting, and thriving. And in between adapting and thriving, we have a joining concept of resilience. So those two are slightly, there is another aspect there that joins those two, which is resilience. Now those words that we have just said are concepts. But for us, Naturistic Shamanic Tradition, as we said, is a tradition for a modern and constantly evolving world. And those things, connecting, communing, kindness, adapting, thriving, and then resilience, those things are the guides, if you like, or the vehicles that you can use to get where you want to go in this shamanic tradition, how you can move in the tradition, in the world, in your life. We have the guiding principles, and we have all of the tools that we use, and we have this understanding that Naturistic Shamanic Tradition is a shamanic tradition for a modern and constantly evolving world. But what is it? What is it about? What it is about is the nature of things. That is what we are interested in. That is what we work towards in everything. That is where all of our information, all of our channelings, all of our work is focused upon, is the nature of things. Because in the nature of things, is where we find out how things work, how they can work better, how they can change, how they can adapt, how they can become more resilient, how we can connect and commune with those things, and how we can find out how all of these things, the nature of things, can support the wider group. Now, the nature of things includes the nature of the natural world. It includes the nature of the human group as a group and then as the individual. So the nature of that particular person. It is the nature of government, the nature of community, the nature of the weather, the nature of the elements. It is the nature of human psychological need for religion, human psychological need for support, for communion with other people, for socializing. It is the nature of all of those things. And when you look at those things from the purely unique level of the individual, it becomes a very distinct picture. So the nature of all of those things for you will be completely different from the nature of those things for the person next to you. And in that is what Naturistic Shamanic Tradition is about. The nature of things and the uniqueness of that for each individual, each community, each nation, each plant, each element, and where all of those things are. So the elements, let's say the weather, the rain in one country is different to the rain in the other country. The nature of the plants and the trees and so on that occur as a result of that are different here to that other place. So the nature of that is then imbued into not only the flora and fauna, but into the culture, into the community, into the family groups, into the individual. So we look at the nature of things. And at the very base level, but also the most detailed level, that is what Naturistic Shamanic Tradition is about, the nature of things.
Brad, how do you, just listening to what Mother Sharia said, how do you live that? Practically live it? Because it's, it is I would suggest that a shamanic tradition is a lifestyle. It's a way of life. How do you live it?
So it's a good question, Caroline. In the tradition, just quickly recap, there's these guiding principles of connection and communion, adapting and resilience, with thriving and kindness. When we first met the mothers and Mother Sharia, they said shamanism is actually all about connecting and communing. And that was at odds with what everyone else we knew was saying. But, with time I've realized it's actually the engine. It's you connect with things and then you move at a subtle level, almost like, at a spirit level where you can commune, and there's this swapping of information. There's this knowledge and this is emotion sharing. As a shaman, or if I'm running medicine circles, or if I'm trying to balance myself after, toiling out there in the Western world, this connection communion allows for this exchange of energy, exchange of knowledge, this movement of things, movement of who we are into a much bigger thing to bring about whatever we want, as well as learning and growing and being healthy. So that's this connection communion. That's how I live that. Then there's this adapting and resilience and thriving. Resilience is at odds with adapting, but you need this resilience to push on to do the hard things that you might want to do or that are needed to do. It's a principle that guides you to how do I make myself resilient for something like COVID or these changes that are coming our way. So being adapting helps you to adapt to whatever's coming. Adapt to what we went through in COVID, like we moved a lot of stuff online, but resilience was keep going, but also the other aspects of resilience for survival. And am I going to compromise my values and go easy, or I'm going to stay resilient and work out a way to live my truth and push on? So you get an idea of how those things are working. at a basic level, this sort of adapting resilience, we moved off grid, we built our solar system and buildings, and, we grow fruit and veggies, and we repair our things, right, with our own hands. So that's a part of this adapting resilience. You're always learning, and it's always a stretch at times, but it works. Thriving for me has been a hard one. Never thrived in the capitalist world, and that's a place probably where a lot of people get hurt. So I think after many years, where I thrive most is when I can be using my creativity and in my mind and my hands and my being. That's where I thrive. It's better in nature, away from, these institutions that often have those capitalistic energies around them. Also, this idea of building a life for myself, building a life that's not just what we're served with, building a life that's just not what's been served up to us, but actually thinking about it and working it out and pushing on with that. That's, I find I'm thriving in that. The last point, kindness, this is very much a sovereign balancing act. Kindness, I see, in other words, it's more like an allowance for yourself, but also an allowance for others. But that allowance can have a very hard, firm hand if you need to pull yourself into gear or expressly point the boundary out for someone else. Or you might come to the realization that the kindest thing to do is the hard thing, the firm hand, and sort things out now, or say no, or remove them from my life because that's the kindest thing for you, or maybe the kindest thing for them. So yeah, that's how I live these basic tenets, and they're different for everyone. Yeah, see how you go.
Yes, I think for me, the guiding principles of connecting, communing, kindness, adapting, thriving, and then resilience, those things for me, I find very helpful because I need to have things organized. So my, my personality is one, I need to have things organized, and I need to have things organized. Let's just say that. So I actually find comfort in those guiding principles, because it does give me something to use in my daily life. And I know that, for me, communing is incredibly important because it's a step beyond connecting. It's actually, coming into a space where there is nothing in between and everything is available. And I do that regularly when I'm channeling, but I also do that when I'm creating. So for me, that is a real sense of my belonging, is that communing. And I've never been one to, the small talk and that sort of thing. I just can't do it. I have to actually have a real connection and a real communing experience with someone. So I call it the intimate experience. And the other thing that I find, especially now, coming through COVID and moving into new spaces and new ideas, and there's things changing all the time, the adapting principle for me is just something that really helps me, because I do not like change. I really don't like change, and I find it very difficult to action. It really shocks me every time there's a change. But with that idea, I have to adapt. Here is this moment, I have to adapt. And in that moment, it really helps me with that idea of adapting. And when I sort of relate that to the nature of things, which is what a shamanic tradition is about, the nature of things, I can really feel into that moment, and then the adapting is not such a shock to me, because I'm actually communing in that moment with whatever the nature of this thing is, and I can make that movement.
Another thing to add here is, Mother Sharia has educated us for just off a decade, but the mothers have been around us longer. And we found we were living these guiding principles of the Naturistic Shamanic Tradition already. So, the mothers and Mother Sharia have just given us this clarity of how to create a life that is more respectful for nature, but respectful of the self. And you can explore the self and get a clarity of yourself and come to this fullness of life, leaving behind others' expectations and just being able to enjoy who you are and say no to that and find out where you belong.
So as we mentioned earlier in the podcast, a big part of our journey this year is questing. And Brad mentioned that questing is quite a significant part of shamanic work. And questing can be done in lots of different ways, depending on the tradition that you're with. So each podcast, we're going to have a different quest. And those quests are really designed to help you or encourage you to explore yourself more deeply, to come to some clarity about yourself and understanding of yourself, with the idea of understanding your origin and then your ability to belong, or your, how you belong in the world. So to discuss our first quest of the year, of course, we're going to get Mother Sharia, because she's the one. We're going to get Mother Sharia to talk about our first quest. So I'm actually going to get Mother Sharia now. So Brad might talk, or there might be just silence.
Welcome, Mother Sharia.
Yes, welcome. Thank you.
To podcast 1.
Yes. So the first quest of the year, of course, everything that we're going to be doing, as we've already discussed, but we can't help ourselves but to repeat things, is that we're looking for our origin, looking for more information about ourselves to inform our origin and to understand how we belong. So the first quest of the year is going to be nature bathing. Now, nature bathing is really looking at this idea of connecting and communing. So finding something in nature, and by that we mean the natural world nature, finding something in the natural world that you can connect with and commune. Now, in that space of connecting and communing, what we are looking for is there is an opening up between you and whatever it is that you are going to connect and commune with, you're going to bathe in. And both of you, so let's say it's a tree, both you and the tree will be bathing in each other's energy. So they will be opening up to each other, and there will be this exchange of ideas, exchange of energy, and just that feeling of, if you like, abandoning the self to that moment. So that's really communing, right? You've connected with it, and now you're communing with it by abandoning yourself to that moment. What you're wanting to achieve, or what you're wanting to get out of that, is this feeling or understanding of the nature of, in this case, the tree, and how that responds or reacts or engages with you, and how you then engage, respond, and react to that. So there's like a circular motion happening where both the tree and you are energetically talking to each other. And in that space, you will find out a lot about yourself if you're listening. You will find out the fears in relation to the tree, in relation to opening up, in relation to abandoning your energetics to this tree. You'll be finding out about your joy, about how you are able to experience that joy and feel that fullness in the body, in the heart, and how that then is responding back to the tree. You'll be able to find out about the things that you think about and how relevant they are and how important they really are in the big scheme of things. So there's going to be a lot of information that you can glean from the nature bathing. What you are wanting to do over time, so over a month, is that you're trying to build an understanding, a deeper understanding of your relationship to that, to the natural world, your relationship to, you're wanting to have an understanding of your relationship with the natural world. And in that understanding, you are creating or you are developing an understanding of yourself in the world. So therefore you are opening up and understanding more and more about the nature of yourself and the nature of your environment and the nature of your reactions and the nature of your condition and the nature of your experiences. So nature bathing is what we're going to be doing. Now, nature bathing can be done if you want to go into a forest and you want to experience all of that energy. It can be done at the beach. It can be done near a lake. It can be done on the top of a mountain. It can be done in your home, holding a flower, a leaf, a rock. It can be done in many different ways, because nature bathing does not mean you have to actually be in the environment, because you are not just going out into the environment. Let's say you go to a forest and then expect to be bathed by nature. You have to interact. That's actually the key. You're interacting and opening up to that space to find out more about yourself and your relationship. So that means that you can do it in any place. And as we said, at home with the flower, at home with your pot plant. You might want to touch it. You might not want to touch it. You might want to just feel that energy and really focus on that. It could be with an animal that you have, a pet. It could be with, you go to the zoo and there's an animal behind in a cage, and you have this experience with them. So nature bathing is really about opening yourself up in this regard to the natural world, whatever that is for you, and really having that experience of connecting and communing, and then keeping yourself open enough to actually get a response. So you're not just out there dumping and so that you can feel good. You're out there opening yourself up to get a response. And if you can listen to that response or feel that response or smell that response, whatever it is for you, then you will be able to really communicate with that natural item, whatever it is, and you will really learn a lot about yourself. So we suggest that after each session that you do, that you write a journal and you write down what it is you learned, what it is you felt, what it is you heard, what it is you saw, smelt, whatever it is, and what you learned from that. Because what you're trying to do is to build a picture of yourself and build a picture of yourself and how you belong. Now, when you are doing this with nature, as in the natural world, you will really experience a feeling of belonging, because the natural world is so open and so willing to explore with you and to commune with you and to share with you, that you will very easily feel this sense of belonging, this sense that you are as important to whatever it is in the natural world you are communing with as it sees you as important to it. So, there is a really beautiful experience of this belonging. So the quest is nature bathing. You can do it in any way that you like. You might want to have beautiful music on when you are in a forest or by the beach and you are really feeling that energy moving through you. You might want to do it in silence. You might want to meditate with it. You might want to stay eyes open and just put your hands on a tree and just feel yourself moving into that space, into the tree, and losing yourself in that. There's a whole range of things that you might want to do. You might want to use your voice. You might want to go into the forest or go to a beach and just open up your voice and feel the energy as you express yourself in this way, singing or laughing or whatever it is, and really feel that energy going out and the response that you get back. That's what you're looking for, because that's going to tell you a lot about yourself. So a quest for this first podcast is nature bathing, and we really look forward to hearing from people who have tried it. And you can do it every day. You can do it once. You can do it once a week. It's completely up to you. There's no prescription, but we hope that you give it a go, and we hope that you learn something about yourself and start to build that picture. And as we said, if you do it, we would really love to hear of your experiences. So please feel free to share that with us. Thank you so much.
So Mother Surya, say I do this, right? And it's the first time I've done it and I get nothing. I get absolutely nothing. What do you say to that?
Well, what we say always to people when they say they get nothing is there's always something going on. And maybe it takes practice for you to hear it. You know, sometimes people, they're in school or they're learning something and it's told to them for the first time and they don't retain it. And then they hear it again like they've never heard it before. And then they might hear it again like they've never heard it before. And eventually, it starts to become a part of their understanding. So when they hear it again, maybe for the 10th time, they can understand it and they can act on it. You know, that's exactly how advertising works.
Sure.
They give you something that you may never heard of before, and then they keep doing it until it becomes part of the psyche. So it's a similar sort of thing. Sometimes you get nothing. You don't understand. You don't hear it. You don't feel anything. But then as you keep doing it, and if you do it with intention, and if you do it consciously, then you are more likely to start to feel responses, start to feel something coming back to you and something coming out of you.
So it may not talk to you. It might be a feeling somewhere in the body. It might be an irritation. It might be,
yes, when we said
a smell.
Correct. When we said listening, we realized that people will automatically think of their ears, right? But when we say listening, it's a very global term. So the listening exactly could be a smell, could be something in the body that you feel, could be a thought that comes into your head, could be words that come out of your mouth, could be something, a vision or something that you see fleetingly. That's what we mean by listening. You listen to all of those things and then you try to understand what that means. What meaning did that have in relation to what I am consciously and intentionally doing right now?
Okay, so I've done this exercise once or twice. How does this relate to origin?
So what you're trying to do with this quest is to have a deeper understanding of the self. Most people have very surface understanding of themselves, and that's perfectly fine. Most people can get through their life having a very surface understanding of themselves. And that might be, they understand perhaps that it's informed by their family group, by their environment, and so on. But they don't really go deeper than that to find out their place or where they belong for themselves. Not what everybody else is doing, what everybody tells them or what they've been born into, but for themselves. So what you're trying to do here is to really build a picture, a deeper picture of yourself, not informed by all of these other external distractions that are constantly in your life, but something that you are feeling and experiencing on a very subtle undertone level. And that's why we say for the first quest to do this with something in the natural world, because the natural world, most parts or things in the natural world are incredibly open. They can't help it. They know what they're here to do, and they do that. It's an apple tree. It knows it has to grow apples. The apples know it has to have seeds. They know that they have to grow for whatever, for the animals or for the people. They know their purpose, and that's what they do. So they are very sure of their purpose, and they're very sure of what they have to do. And in that, they can be very open, because they have nothing that holds them back, because they know what they're supposed to do. So in that space, they're so open and they're very confident, and they have no fear of opening up to a human who has problems, who has distress, who is sad or happy. They have no problem with that, because they are so sure of their own self, of their own purpose and their own experience. And so in that, you can feel very confident and comfortable that you will be looked after by whatever the aspect of the natural world that you open yourself up to, or that you commune with.
So years ago, you told us that when you were on the plains of Siberia, some days you might take the children out to talk to different aspects of nature. And this is the same.
Absolutely. Of course, it was a little bit different because it would have been, it was more survival, right? It was not just let's go and have some fun and commune and try to find out more about ourselves.
Flowers. Yeah.
That's right. It was, yes, that, because always that is giving people more insight into themselves and more understanding of how they fit in the world, how they belong in the world. But at the same time, there was, a definite, very serious survival information that needed to be imparted.
It was underlying in the whole life.
Correct. And, even now, if you look at it from that point of view, for lots of people, they find it hard to function in the world, and they find it that, they can just survive. That's it. Most people, most humans are just surviving. And by that we mean that they are, obviously, what we mean by that is they're not thriving. They're not, and thriving has got so many aspects to it of ownership, choice, sovereignty. Most humans are just surviving. They can just pay their bills. They have to go to work. They have to do these things. They're just surviving. And so when you are looking, with the nature bathing, a big part of that is actually getting you to a point of thriving. Right? So it's beyond survival, but it is at this point now, it is really getting people to have an understanding of themselves on a level that they don't normally experience, have an understanding of the relationship with whatever the natural world item is that they're going to be communing with, and then building that picture of the concept of communing and their relationship and their belonging in the world. So we can move beyond surviving and move into a thriving.
So for years you told us this tradition is about connecting and communing, right? So this is the practicing of those two things.
Absolutely.
Anything else to say before you go? Like and share this podcast.
Yes, that's it. Like and share this podcast, as Bradley said. Well, is there anything else you want to say? We just would like to wish people good energy. That's what we'd like to, good energy. Good, strong, thriving, honest, fun, joyful, happy energy.
So thank you, Mother Sherelle. Caroline's having a drink and she's coming back to us, putting the glasses on. Welcome back, Caroline.
Thank you.
Thank you for that. So that's basically this podcast done.
Yes. What we'd also like to let everybody know is that in July this year, we are going to Uluru for our wintering. We did our wintering last year in Inlet Hot Springs, and it was a really fantastic experience. We had a lot of positive experiences and a lot of fun with the people that came. This year, we're going to Uluru, and we have 5 places left. So if you are interested in doing that, so we'll put the brochure in the comments. And so if you're interested in that, please give us a call. It's going to be a really special experience. We have a lot of wonderful things planned. So please give us a call if you're interested in that. We have events planned all through the year, so please go to our events page on our website, which we'll put coming up at the end as well. And we would like to thank you so much for staying with us, this podcast. We hope you've enjoyed it. And if you've got any comments or if you've got any questions, please feel free to send them to us in the comments. And
or Messenger.
Comments or Messenger. Yep.
WhatsApp. It's all there.
Yep. All of that. And yep, again, thank you so much for spending time with us.